7 weather action day. Weather really nice today,
Yes.
but we are buckling up, putting on our seatbelt on for what's going to be a bumpy next 4 to 5 days.
We have a series of winter-like storms set to roll into the state.
So the snow
Yes.
did stop for a bit yesterday. We thought it was going to be a break, but it's been falling again this morning, and it continues to fall right now, just adding to the several inches that we had collected and dealt with yesterday.
Smoking under palm trees, smell the ocean breeze rolling. Oh, looks like we got some visitors. Oh. Hey, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy ZTY Tune. We're in the jungle. It's becoming winter time, and I know some of our plants do not like that environmental change. They do not like that cold drop. The temperatures are going to be going crazy. Your humidity is going to be going crazy. So these are some tips and tricks to help you maneuver your plants to a smooth sailing throughout the winter. A lot of people like to let their plants go into dormancy. I'm not even gonna say a lot of people. I'm gonna just say some people like to let their plants go into dormancy, which some plants do need to go into dormancy during the winter. But a lot of these tropical plants, they don't know what a winter is because they're closer to the equator, so they don't really know. They're like, what's a winter? What's dormancy really? They have like slight dormancies in their dry season and their wet season, things like that. But when it comes to temperature drop, they don't really handle that. So I'm gonna teach y'all how to keep your plants going year round, keep them happy, keep them thriving. And there's gonna be 3 major tips that I give you. It's gonna be plant care in the winter, it's gonna be environmental care in the winter, which basically talks about environmental, your indoors, how to keep your indoors going through the winter. And then the third thing is gonna be tips and tricks on the plant care and environmental care going on in the winter. So stay tuned, and we're gonna make sure you guys are good to go throughout the winter season. Let's get it going. Also, make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Just go ahead and do that one time. If you're already a subscriber, I appreciate you. If you're not, I would appreciate you if you went ahead and subscribed one time. We gonna get it going. Let's talk plants. So now, one of the first things we're gonna talk about first is environment. Keeping your environment decent for these plants is crucial. For a lot of people, this is probably going to be one of your most expensive times of the year to keep indoor plants, is because you're running the heat a lot more. You're probably running your humidifier a lot more, which is causing you to buy a lot more RO water or distilled water, which is probably going to run your bills up just a little bit more. But it's not that much more. It's really not that much. You figure it's not cheap. I'm not going to lie to you. Running your humidifier is about $1.50 a day. A gallon of distilled or water is about $1 to $2.50 a day. So $1 to $2, $2.50 a day for running your humidifier. And then you got to make sure you're keeping your plants hydrated. But at the same time, now that I'm saying this, it's actually probably a little bit less on your water bill too, because your plants staying hydrated, it's not taking as much because they're not super hot during the summer. It's a lot more drier here in Colorado. It's way more hotter, obviously. It's hotter. And it's really not going to be hitting them 80 degrees in here. Sometimes it accidentally will hit about 79, 80 degrees in here. Yeah, we'll probably still get them days where it probably still hits a good like 78, 77, but not as easily, not as frequently. It's probably going to more serve around that 74, 75, 76 degrees. That's a pretty crucial one. Your temperatures can drop during the night, but you really want your temperatures to raise during the day. If you're not allowing your temperatures to raise during the day, that's kind of what happens in Florida when they get them cold snaps down south. Yeah, it can get down to the 60s during the night, but if it's not getting back up to the 74s, at least 74. My lucky number is 74. Some other growers might have a lucky number, but 74 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's not getting to 74 degrees Fahrenheit and above, after that 60-degree drop, then the plants don't really have that bounce back that they should, and they kind of start freaking out, and that's when you start seeing cold burns, and your plants start to wig out, and your cells in your plants start to explode, and your plants just stop surviving at that point. They just start freaking out, and they unalive themselves. They try to go into a dormancy. They try to chill out. They try to drop some leaves to save on energy, and they just start dropping leaves. To prevent that, you want to keep your temperatures high. Like I was saying, keep your temperatures, like I said, if you just, I don't let mine, personally, I don't let mine get below 68 degrees in here. And if it does get to about that 68 degree mark, I am definitely making sure when I wake up, I'm cranking that heat back up to about 75, 74, 75, just to get it going for the morning. And then when I leave here during the day, I put my heat on about 76, 75, 76, depending on if it's a super cold, snowy day, I'll put it on 76, 77. If it's a pretty chill, like it's a sunny day, I'll put it on 75, just because the sun is still gonna be hitting the roof, which that's gonna generate heat. And us being here in Colorado, we're a little bit closer to the sun. Therefore, that sun hitting that roof is a little bit more stronger. We get a little bit more stronger sun here, so therefore it warms up the roof a little bit, which warms up the room a little bit, which we are upstairs. Well, not upstairs, we're on the main floor. So the main, and there's nothing above us. It's just the main spot right here. So that sun just penetrates and hits the roof and gets it nice and warm, keeps the room warm. So prevents me having to use the heat a lot. So that's a little tip too as well. So if you're kind of like in an apartment building and you're like smushed in between, or you're in the bottom floor, that's probably going to be really it's going to wreak some havoc on you, because you're never going to have that warmth coming through from the sun. Especially if you're like in an apartment, you're on the bottom floor and you got like a north facing window, you're going to probably have to have your heater cranked, and you're going to need some grow lights for sure. Which, let's go ahead and talk about that real quick. We'll talk about lighting. Talk about watering a little bit. Yeah, obviously with watering, don't overwater your plants. You're not gonna want to water your plants too much. It's winter time. Your plants are not gonna be drinking as much, so that's gonna be a cut down on your water costs as well. You're gonna save a little bit on your water, as it's not gonna be dry. It's not gonna dry up. Your plants are gonna be drinking water once every 3 days. They're gonna be drinking water probably once every. Your plants that were drinking water that quick, probably once every 3 to 5 days. You're probably gonna be watering those probably once every 10 to 14, every 7 to 12 days. You'll be watering those, and then your plants that you were watering probably like once a week or once every other week, you're probably watering those once every 2 weeks, once a month. So you'll start to push your plants back a little bit. Just start to listen to your plants. Get a moisture meter if you don't have a moisture meter. Get a moisture meter. Probe your soil temperatures, not temperatures. Probe your temperature, water levels. You can probe your temperatures too. There are thermometers that you can stick in the soil to check your temperatures. Hopefully your temperatures in your soils aren't getting below 65 in the root ball, because if your temperatures in your root ball are below 65, then your plants are really going to be upset. So try to keep your root balls happy if you can. People use heat mats. If you use a heat mat, you just gotta watch for the heat mat doing too much and causing a lot of bacteria growth, so just watch out for that. But yeah, with watering, just gonna slow down on your watering a little bit. Slow down on the watering. I keep a little more misting. I'll show you guys how I mist and how I water here in a minute. But yeah, so like I said, real quick, let's go ahead and touch on lighting as well. So artificial lighting in the winter, let's talk about that. Lighting. So some of us need artificial lighting. If you live in the northern hemisphere, if you are living in an apartment complex and you're at the bottom floor, or you're just facing north and you just get no sun directly into your unit, you're probably going to need to get some artificial lighting, especially for your bigger tropical plants. Some of your smaller plants, some of your smaller philodendrons and things like that, they even need a brighter light. So artificial lighting, bringing artificial lighting into your home is probably going to be essential for growing during the winter. It's just one of those things you're probably going to you're probably going to need. A lot of people don't understand that grow lights are actually pretty well adapted today to your normal house fixtures. You don't have to go out and buy a giant metal highlight, metal high pressure sodium. You don't gotta buy, you're gonna go buy, that's what I'm like, what is his name? But you don't gotta buy a metal highlight, you don't gotta buy a high pressure sodium with a ballast and all of that. You don't have to do all the things that you would have to do back in the day with growing plants artificially indoors. Today they made it a lot easier for us growers, thanks to the cannabis industry, making grow lights. So we have all kinds of grow lights that you can grow with. Some of my plants aren't even grow lights. Hence this light right here. This is actually a light for your garage, front of your garage, your driveway. This is like a driveway light. It just matches my standards. Like some grow lights are grow lights, and some lights are lights that can be used as grow lights. For instance, this one right here, like I said, this is a grow light, this is a garage light for your driveway. And this one was about 8,000 lumens, I do believe, 8,000 lumens. which is the perfect amount of light I love. I don't like reddish lights, which I do have reddish lights in here, but I also have these brighter white lights that make it not so red and purple in here. When the lights start going down, it gets a little bit more reddish, just like it does in the nature. So when my lights start to dim, all my bright white lights start to go off, and it leaves all my red and purple lights a little bit. And then those start to fade down to like a reddish light, and then it goes dark. So it's kind of like a natural fade down. You don't have to do that in your jungle. That's just something I like to create in mine, is a natural fade down with my lights dropping each one blue, 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 because they can't dim naturally. So I just have them each, this one turns off, this one turns off, and I actually have them turning off from east to west as well. So they turn on from the east side, and they come on over here. They start to turn on over here during the morning, and then they slowly get bright that way. And then at night they turn off over here first, and then it slowly gets dark going that way. So it's like the sun's coming like this in my it's just timed like that. That's how I had my timer. I'm a nerd, and I did it that way. If you have the timers set on your Wi-Fi, you can easily do it that way too. It makes it just so much easier. Timer everything. Just timer everything. If you don't have a timer, timer everything. So yeah, but like I said, lights, you can either have garage lights like this, or you can actually have grow lights like my Sansi lights. Shout out Sansi. Use my promo code. I'm gonna leave the link in the bio, but Sansi LED. Jordan 32 is my promo code. Just use that promo code on Sansi's website and save 32%. Yeah, it's actually the first time I've ever like spilled that out loud. So like, that's why I was kind of like But yeah, Sansi LED. Use Jordan 32 code. It's gonna be on the screen. Use the code on the screen. Go ahead and go to SansiLED.com and get you a Sansi light for the discount. But yeah, Sansi LEDs. I used to tell people like, it doesn't matter. Get you one of these. Get you one of these. Doesn't really matter. I am gonna say that after using Sansi LEDs, I am. They're not paying me to say this at all. I have definitely noticed a difference with using Sansi and just using a regular just household LED. Like this LED is actually really good. It's just super bright. Obviously, it was like $30 for this LED. Super good LED, and it grows my pitcher plants perfectly. As you can see, my pitcher plants looking amazing. But that Sansi LED, I don't know if you can tell the lighting from the Sansi LED from this one. Like I don't know if you can see the difference in lighting off of the palm of my hand, but that light is just so much more brighter. Like this one's bright and sharp too, but that one's just like, it's a piercing light. So I love my Sansi LED light. So super shout out to Sansi LED. Go get you one. They have ones that screw in to your normal light faucets or light fixtures. I said faucet, but they have lights that screw into your normal light fixtures. They have hanging ones that look good in your living room. They have ones like the one I got, which is for industrial grow, which is what I needed for my bird of paradise and other big plants over here. And that thing literally stretches from my cat palms way over there all the way over to my banana and my gloriosum, my alocasias way over here, down here. So that light spreads from way over here to way over there. So, and it's spreading to over here. It's probably spreading to about here too. So it probably comes about this wide. So I would definitely say, or I would say about this wide. I say you can't see that, but like over to this way. But it's a very big spread that Sansi LED has. So highly recommend you getting a Sansi LED if you can. But yeah, so that's lighting. Let's go ahead and move on to watering. So when watering, I actually use a sprayer. Knocking out my plants here. I actually use a sprayer when I water. It just makes things a little bit easier to aim the nozzle. As you guys probably don't know, some of you know because you would actually know from me setting up my setup here. Some of you may know that underneath the turf is poly liner. So there's plastic underneath that. There's plastic underneath the turf. So when I spray, it actually is not soaking through the astroturf hitting the hardwood floor. It's actually hitting the poly liner. So be careful or not. And honestly, a lot of it's not even hitting the floor. That's the secret. A lot of it's not even hitting the floor. I'm gonna show you. So as you know, my jungle's layered. You have the top of the canopy, which is a lot of bigger plants. A lot of my bird of paradises. A lot of my palms are up there. And then you also have some other plants up there. You got a corn plant. You got a black billy. You got another billy back here. You got a Florida ghost. And you got some anthuriums. You know what I'm saying? Same on this side, Billy, along Lobia, some Chorizo Verdes. You got a decent canopy over here. So you have a canopy above me, and then underneath the canopy, you have plants in their shells. And then you have underneath that, you have plants that are my crawlers. You got some of my crawlers, you have my ground plants like my Tomatophyllum, you have my crawlers like my Gloriosum, and you have big bushy plants like my Alocasias. You got pothos over here for premiums. And back here you also have some big crawlers. You got a McDowell back here, a giant McDowell. You got a giant climber and an Addisoniae, a giant form Addisoniae. So you have different layers in my jungle. My jungle is an actual, well, I say my jungle, but for the terms of the video, my setup is an actual jungle. Let's just put it that way. The setup that I have created is an actual jungle. It helps real life scenarios make it easier to care for the plants. There we go. Real life scenarios make it easier to care for the plants. Boom. Look, write that down. All right, write that down. So when I spray my plants and I'm spraying them, the runoff from the leaves that it hits runs off, hits another plant below, that catches on the leaf, and it takes it down to another plant pot or that plant pot that leaf is under. So I actually hardly, or will never probably ever really water the Tomatophyllum, because it just gets, when I'm missing these plants and they drip, when I'm missing the coconuts of these plants and it drips through the coconut, it drips down the logs, it drips down to the other coconuts, and drips onto the other moss balls, it drips onto the other plants pots at the bottom down here, and then everything has a tray underneath it. So I'll show you guys close up, but everything has a tray underneath it. So if I pull these leaves back, you can see there's a tray that everything is sitting in. All the plant pots are sitting in a tray. So they're not just sitting on the carpet. So when you water them, they're actually dripping into a tray that has rocks. It's rocks and then on a tray. And the tray is about that thick. It's actually your tray for your shoe liners. It's for your shoes to go into that I get from Home Depot. But I actually use them for the plants because they're thick. They don't break. They don't get brittle and snap. They have a nice high enough wall, catch the water. They're perfect. And I have one on this side as well. So they're not one, but there's like 3 on this side, and then some over there, and there's like 3 or 5 on this side. There's a lot on this side. There's probably like 5 on this side, honestly. And then there's some back there holding on my palms and stuff. So the plants look like they're just sitting on the carpet, but they're not. They're actually sitting, it looks like they're sitting on AstroTurf, but they're sitting in a tray on top of rocks in their pots. Everything is individually potted in here. But as you spray and as you see the water drip off, say like I spray this anthurium up here, I'm spraying that anthurium, you probably can't see it because it's off camera, but it drips down. But for instance, there's more plants like this over here. Say if I'm spraying the Spirit of Sancti, I'm just watering my Spirit of Sancti. Watering the Spirit of Sancti, water's going to drip out of the coconut and it's going to go into the silver sword. Silver sword is going to fill up and it's going to go into the Addisoniae, or at the Papuense back here. So, and the same with the Yopii. So this is a Yopii right here. This is a Yopii right here. So I'm watering the Yopii. Yopii drops into the silver sword as well. And then underneath the silver sword and over here, like I said, it drops into the Papuense or it drops into the pothos. You know, and then if it's dripping off the leaves, then the leaves go into these plants over here. Same with my palms. If I'm watering the top, if I'm spraying the top of my palms, those are dripping over here onto the banana, onto my alocasia, and those are being also watered through the leaves. So a lot of plants just get watered through themselves from me watering the top plant. So that's also why I have a lot of these coconuts and stuff stacked up on top of each other, because when you water one coconut, it drips to the other one. And there's little secret. There's charcoal in all the coconuts at the bottom. That way it purifies the water. When I'm spraying it, it purifies it coming out of the coconut, and when it goes to the next plant, it's purified at that moment too. So yeah, what I do is I'm gonna bring you in for a close-up on one of these over here so you can see what I'm doing. All right, as you can see here, we got a couple plants that are in coconuts on logs, and you're wondering, how do you water these without soaking your ground? Well, first, I always get a towel for some of these, especially this log right here. So much. I get a little hand towel for it. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Little hand towel. I just throw that down underneath right here because I already know it gets a little hand right here. Gets a little crazy underneath these ones. Just because the runoff is kind of crazy. These ones get a little more drier than the other ones. And I just spray the outside of the moss. Make sure it's not too bad. And I just go in with a nice little bloop, bloop, and pulse it. I go, like I'm pulsing, I'm pulsing it, you know?
I'm not just holding it down, I'm pulsing it just a little bit until I start seeing the moss really change to that super saturated color. Once I see one's good, I go to the next. This one's a little bit drier than the other one. But see, I just hold it and see once it starts to drip around the edges, that means it's not accepting the water too much as much, right? It's not accepting the water as much right now. So then I just go and just spray the outside of it real quick. I also come to the back, try to find like a little pocket where it's a little bit more saturated, so it's not just gonna drip around the edges. Pulsate it. See, now it's starting to get a drip through the middle and not just a drip to the outside. So once you start getting that drip through the middle, that's when you know, and it's coming out the hole, that means you know you're on the money. I'm gonna cover this up a little bit. You're dripping on the floor right there. I'm gonna come right here, get this vanilla orchid. Come right here, get this anthurium. Spray the leaves because it likes the leaves all soaked. I'll come down here and spray this one that's down here that you're not seeing me spray, but I'll show them on camera what it looks like. The one at the very bottom is actually my Parisa verde. The one I'm spraying right now is actually goes to this, my big old Parisa verde right here. And that one actually drips into a pothos. This one I don't have to worry about over soaking because it drips into a pothos. And then the micans back here, some other pothos back here. So yeah, see, you basically just soak them. Pulsate, 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 pulsate. Look at the bottom. Pulsate. See, now it's dripping out the bottom. See, that's dripping out the hole. Pause. Come up here, you get the vanilla orchid. Come up here, you get the golden dragon. That's my golden dragon. Starts right here. That I've had forever. I've grown this golden dragon since it was a bit. Actually, I think that is the oldest leaf on it. I think that was the most mature leaf when I first got it, and then it started shooting out all these other leaves, and it went immature a little bit at the top. But I think the next leaf is gonna be pretty good. If I'm looking at it right, I think the next leaf is gonna be pretty good. And then I just spray everybody down. I spray down everybody down here and down at the bottom because let me show you, there are roots down here. Let me show you. All right, we're going handheld a little bit. Sorry if it's a little shaky. But you see off the Parisa verde, the Parisa verde goes all the way damn near to the top. And you can see the roots, if I can focus it, the roots have grown down. They're even hanging their own Spanish moss off themselves. But you see all the roots. I just spray the roots because that's what they like. And when you have a natural jungle setup like this, roots actually grow quite nicely in the canopies. And I can show you a good example of roots growing underneath plants, growing in the canopies. We got some right here on this side. I'm pretty sure we probably do, but it's easier to see over here. Oh yeah, we definitely got a ton over here. These are kind of just now getting, these are more statued plants down here. Hold on, let me take out the zoom. These are more established plants down here, so they're just climbing up, and they're not really super rooty up here yet. Like you can have like, obviously like some arrow roots hanging down like right here. If you get like really in there, you could probably find some arrow roots hanging down, but over here, definitely got some arrow roots. This one comes from way up here and goes all the way down right there, comes down all the way this way, and then you got some over here, some over here. You got arrow roots just hanging down. It's a real jungle scenario over here. And then the same as over here. You have a real jungle scenario. You got roots just coming down. And if you know me, I'm a fan of letting my arrow roots. This one just goes through the moss. I'm a fan of letting my arrow roots grow crazy, but they start attaching to the wood after a while. They start attaching to the wood and growing down the wood, and they start doing what plants do. They start getting real attachy. You got roots growing across the coconuts. There's roots growing across the coconut. Look at that. That root's growing across that coconut into the shell. So yeah, the arrow roots are doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're arrow rooting. They're rooting in the air. That's what they're supposed to be doing. That's what plants do in the wild. Look at all these arrow roots coming from my monsteras. Y'all probably already seen my monstera arrow roots. These are all from my monsteras. And they're all alive. Look at even one of my monstera roots sends it from all the way up here, all the way down, all the way into my pond right here, and it goes into my pond. And look at all this. That's monstera. From not even a monstera, that's over here. That monstera's over there. They got monstera roots that come from all the way over here. They just go. Look at monstera roots, just gone. They just go. All these aerial roots. So I'm a big fan of aerial roots. That lets me know the plants are happy. So if you're not letting your aerial roots grow, if you're cutting your aerial roots, the plant's not gonna be that happy, I'm telling you right now. Look at these aerial roots coming off this hanging billy. These aerial roots coming off this billy. I can grab it by the aerial roots. You know? That's what you wanna see, is aerial roots coming off these plants and out these logs. Where's one? What's a good example of one just coming out? Oh yeah, this one right here. I already showed you this one, but this one comes out the log, out the root ball, down, around, and over here somewhere. I don't even know where it goes somewhere. But yeah, arrow root's about to hit the ground. I just got stabbed by arrow root, arrow root, arrow root. This one goes way far down. Jeez, that one goes way down there. That one goes way down to there. But yeah, arrow roots, guys. Let them things grow. But the main thing I was showing you on this is basically how when I water, it flows down to the next coconut. So you water, and when I water this one, it flows down to the next coconut, flows down to the next plant, drips into the next plant's pot. I never water this heteroraceum because it's underneath this coconut, so it gets watered by itself. I never watered this guy because it gets watered with the drips from the plants. This alocasia rarely gets watered because it just, when I'm spraying, it gets hit. This alocasia dragon, pink dragon, is huge. That's a pretty big pink dragon. She just doing her thug dizzle. If you can't make it in this jungle, then you can't make it. Like, big old gloriosum leaf right here. Big old gloriosum leaf. Like, I'm not even joking. Look at the size of this gloriosum leaf, guys. Sheesh. It came from this plant. And I shot out this leaf. I think she's working on a new one too. Yep, new one coming soon. I don't know if you can see it. Let me get you in there. New one, whoop, coming soon right there. That little guy. But yeah, so when I'm watering these plants, like this Lynette, I barely water the Lynette because she probably needs water. Yeah, she does actually. But when you water the Lynette, I just water her like this, and guess where the water goes? That's what that cone shape is for. When they're in the jungle, when it rains, the water drops into the cone shape, dropping into the pot, watering the plant. See where that's going? See where that water's going? So when I'm watering this is how I water. This is how I water my Lynette. She gets the perfect amount of water as she needs. It's not overwatering. She's not underwatered. That's why she does so great. She gets the perfect lighting, perfect water, perfect air movement, living life. So, next thing we're going to talk about is humidity. Humidity in these indoor jungles is quite crucial, but there's a fine line between good humidity and mold. And we're going to talk about that a little bit because a lot of you don't be taking care of your humidifiers like you should. You should basically be cleaning out the humidifier at least once every 2 months. You should definitely be only using RO or distilled water. If you're using tap water, then your doctor's probably going to yell at you here in a few years because you're killing your throat, you're killing your lungs. You're probably cleaning your glass in your house way too often because you're probably putting too much minerals on your surfaces and everything. So you're probably cleaning your windows, you're probably cleaning surfaces way too often because it's getting that little dust film on it. And that's because you're using tap water, and tap water has minerals in it, and minerals you don't want it to sonically burn off. Basically, that is an ultrasonic. I forgot how it distills, but basically how it makes it evaporate. But it's an ultrasonic technique that literally makes the water turn into this humidity. And you do not want your minerals basically turning into it's not really a gas. I guess it's still a liquid. It's just an air liquid. I don't know what you would call that. But you don't want your minerals floating around your airs like that. You don't want, you see all these little particles that it breaks up to? That's water. All right? That is evaporated water. And you do not want little particles of minerals in that because you are then breathing that in. and that is not healthy for you. Your doctor would yell at you. So distilled and RO water only in humidifiers. Make sure you're cleaning that out really good once at least every 2 months, and keep it rolling. I have mine on a timer, and I get up there and I put the water in it every day, every morning. I wake up, do my chores, like my jungle chores, and one of my jungle chores is putting water in that humidifier. Um, Nothing less. If I don't have water to put in a humidifier, if I run out of water, that is the one thing that I will not mess with. I will not put in regular tap water. I will not put in aquarium water. See, if I run out of bottles of water and I need to water a plant, I'll take water from my aquariums all day to water a plant with. But I am not doing that to put water in my humidifier. I'm not putting water in my humidifier for my aquariums. That sounds like a death sentence. So yeah, humidifiers. Make sure you're taking care of the humidifier. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Also, don't have your humidity blasting during the day. You really don't need your humidity on during the day. Mine's only comes on at night, and it gets my humidity to about 89% at night. During the day, my humidity drops down to about 50, I'd say 47 to about 67%. It drops to about that level during the day. But at night, she goes right back up to about the 80, 89 mark, okay? I've actually woken up and seen it say 99% humidity in my house. Not terrible, especially because right underneath the humidifier is the cooling vent. So my HVAC vent that pulls the air out of my house is actually out of the living room is actually right there. So it pulls the air from right there. There's a heater that's taped off behind there, but it blows air that way behind my aquariums. So there's no hot air directly touching these leaves. That's another thing we're touching on too here in a minute. We're going to touch on that too much right now, but basically you want to be able to pull air out of your house. You want air circulation during the winter. You can't open your windows. You can't open your window during the winter because of the freeze your plants. So you have to have air circulation. You have to have that air in that room being removed and replaced by fresh air at least once every, I'd say once every 4 hours. At least once every 4 hours, you need that air to be replacing as much as possible. On top of, if you can, if you have your heater on, and it's like mine's, I'm lucky enough to have mine in the middle of my jungle. So when my heater comes on every, like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes to heat up the place a little bit, it turns that fan on, cycles the air out of the room. So every about 15, 30 minutes, my air is being cycled out. So I would say you should probably stay around close to that. But if you don't, every 4 hours is okay too as well. But make sure you are getting that humidifier the respected needs by giving it distilled and RO water. Please be giving it the respected needs by giving it distilled and RO water. So yeah, that's your humidity levels. So let's go ahead and talk about that airflow real quick. Let's talk about that. Trust me, I get it. I get it. Heat is something you need in your house. AC is something you need in your house. But your plants really don't need the extremes, hot and cold, dry, constant air blowing, constant cold air blowing on it. They don't like that. They don't like the vent to be just hitting the leaf constantly because it's just drying out the atmosphere around the leaf. It's drying all the pores out around the leaf. Even if it's cold air, hot air, doesn't matter. It's drying the leaf out, and it's not good. It's okay for a ceiling fan. It's okay for a ceiling fan to be on, or a rotating, oscillating fan, like a floor fan or something like that. Which I have a floor fan back here. I have a floor fan over there. They both oscillate, and then I got a ceiling fan right above me. So there's constantly moving air in this jungle, plus the air being pulled out and pushed into this jungle. So constant air movement, constant air filterization. It's just constant moving. That's what you need. If you have your heater vents that are in your jungle area, in your plant area, I would highly recommend either covering those up, like closing them, or covering them up with something that's non-flammable. Like, don't be setting shit on fire, but make sure you are able to close those. That way you're pushing air to the other vents around. So since I have one closed back here, so there's technically two on this wall. There's the one that pulls air from the room, and then there's one that heats, and another one that heats in the back. I have the one that's open in the back. This one's closed. I have the one that's right underneath the floor. There's the floor one right here that's covered up, and there's a floor one right on the other side of the jungle that's covered up. But there's a heater way on the opposite side of the room over there, and there's a heater right here on the other side of this wall in the kitchen. So there's heat coming from over there, heat coming from over there, and it just stays warm that way. And there's heat coming from the floor. Technically, it's warming up the pads on the floor, so it's warming up something, but it's not blowing direct heat onto the plants. There's no direct air blowing onto the plants. It's all coming from oscillating air around the room. The room just heats up from the oscillating air moving around the room. Nothing's actually just staying. There's no heat pockets. Let's put it that way. You don't want no heat pockets. The more heat pockets there is, the more your plants are going to suffer. So try to create that nice movement of air. That way it's not like it's hot over here, cold over there, hot over here, cold over there. It's like it's all kind of one giant hot, humid kind of box that's just swirling, you know. Makes it easier, makes it a little bit easier. That way your plants are just not drying out. They're happy, you know. Make the plants happy. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to make sacrifices to make these plants happy, and some of those sacrifices are sometimes maybe living uncomfortable. You might have to be a little bit hot at times, and you don't want to. You don't. Sometimes there'll be lights on that are bright that you probably don't want to be on at that moment, but you kind of just got to deal with it because it's your lights. So you need light. So if you're willing to adapt to the elements, then having indoor plants are super easy. That's kind of a lot of it too, is adapting to your environment for your plants. Your plants need a good environment. You need a good environment. You need a habitatable spot in the middle. You need that good spot in the middle for both of y'all to live. So create that good spot for both of y'all to live in harmony, and you'll be good. And the more humidity, the better your skin is. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say have humidifiers in your room. You don't really need that, but in your living room, it's good to have a little bit of humidity in your air. Dry air is not good for your lungs, not good for your skin. I don't use lotion in my house ever. It's like when I leave my house, I'm like, I gotta put the lotion on. So just those little tips, you know what I'm saying? Just up your humidity game a little bit. It ain't gonna hurt you a little bit. So yeah, up your humidity game, up your airflow. Make sure your water is on point. So let's go ahead and do a little recap real quick. So we talked about the airflow. We talked about making sure you have some kind of good airflow. You have air pushing into the room. You have air leaving the room. You have your plants not being blasted by hot air and cold air. You kind of have got a good medium going. You're comfortable. Your plants are comfortable. Everybody's comfortable. So establishing your environment is priority one. If you don't have a good environment for it, then your plants are probably going to fail. I'm not going to lie to you. It's just going to be a little bit harder. They're not necessarily going to fail, but it's just going to be a lot harder for you to succeed and be happy. So the more you make it easier on yourself, setting timers, getting them gallons of water one at a time, get like 10, 20 gallons of water at one at a time, have a space that you store them at. That way you're not having to run out and grab them real quick on a whim. It makes the system just go easier. Having a schedule in the morning where you wake up and you're doing plant maintenance at that time. If you're a morning person, if you're an evening person, have a time in the evening where you're coming home and you're doing your plants. I personally would do my plants in the morning. Even if you're an evening person, you're not a morning person, I would set at least 30 minutes in the morning just so that you're home, you're waking up, you're there, you're doing your plants. That way you don't have to come in and do your plants later on that night. You might have an event, you might have some dinner plans, you might have some kind of party or something to attend where later on that night you can't attend your plants and you're like, dang, I really need to add water to my humidifier, and now my humidifier is going to turn on and not have water in it, so it's just not going to turn on when I'm not home. And it's kind of just setting yourself up for failure. So if you set yourself up for success right at the beginning of the day, put the water in the humidifier first thing in the morning, fill all your water levels up in your tanks, feed your fish in the tank in the morning, spray your plants in the morning, make sure they're getting sprayed once a day, because if you miss a day, them coconut's going to dry out or something, them cocodamas, something's going to dry out and it's going to throw your system off. So just have some kind of routine that you're literally jumping in every day, that you're maintaining your plants at least a good 30 minutes to an hour every day. 30 minutes, I wouldn't say to an hour every day. It's 30 minutes to a day is good. 30 minutes every day is good. If you do 30 minutes a day, then once a week, you'll probably have about an hour to 2 hour session where you're just doing like your deadheading, you're cleaning out stuff, you're organizing stuff, you're doing heavy waters on big plants that need a heavy water, like things like that. It's not like you're every day doing something crazy. Oh my God, every day. It's not. It's like 30 minutes, touch this, touch this, touch this. And then once every like Saturday, Sunday in the morning, I spend that hour getting everything good for the week again. And then spray, a little thing. And then once a week again, doing something big. So just try to set some kind of schedule up where you're making it easier for yourself, and that'll make it a lot easier for yourself too. We touched on airflow, touched on watering schedules. Get your watering on point. Like I said, using RO and distilled water will make you a lot it'll make it a lot easier on your plants using RO and distilled. A lot of people use tap water, which you can use tap water. I'm not saying don't, especially depending on where you live. I'm just not trying to risk it. I'm just trying to make sure everything's happy, pH proper, and growing good, as you see in the background. So RO distilled water, making sure everybody's happy. In the winter, cut back on that though. Obviously, in the winter time, you're going to want to cut back on your watering. You're not going to water as much. So in the winter, like I said, if you're watering a plant once a week in the winter, you're going to probably go once every 2 weeks. If you're watering a plant every 3 to 5 days, you're probably going to go every 7 to 10 days, 7 to 12 days. So just keep an eye on your plants. Back off on the watering a little bit, and you'll be all right. Just make sure you up the humidity a little bit, because you're going to be running that hot air, and that hot air is going to dry the air out quite a little bit more than that cold air does. So make sure you're running a humidifier and everybody stays happy with you. What's another thing to touch on? The environment. We talked about environment. We talked about watering. We talked about airflow. Fertilizing. Some people ask me, do you fertilize year round? Yes, I fertilize year round. My plants really don't know the difference. Like, obviously there's a difference because it's not hitting 81, 82 in here sometimes. Max is probably going to hit at 77. So obviously there's a difference when it comes to heat, a little bit, but I try to make sure I counteract that while making sure I keep my heat on like 75, 76 throughout the day, so it kind of gets really hot during the day. And then at night it's about 70 to 68. I let it get in the jungle, which is super low, because in the summer the lowest it gets is probably like 72 in here during the summer. So it's about a good 4 or 5 degrees difference in the winter and the summer. But I try not to let my plants know that it's the winter time outside. You know, I try to let them know, like, nah, it's still, you live in indoors, you live in Ecuador, you live in Colombia, like, you live in where you're supposed to live. So nah, just keep growing how you grow. I try to trick my plants so they don't think they live anywhere but where they're from. So give your plants that environment, they'll appreciate that. It's also easier for my plants to kind of live how they do in the jungle, because I have them growing up logs and near tree branches that they think are trees, and I have them under canopies and grow lights that are really dense, hitting grow lights are like they go deep into the canopy. So they're my grow situation is pretty well set up. Everything's timered. My lights are all on timers. My humidifier is on a timer. All I'm doing is feeding my fish, watering my plants, filling up the humidifier, and making sure everything stays on point. My fertilizer is in the soil and in the root balls of all my plants, and I change that, or I add that once a year. So all I'm doing is adding water, distilled in RO water with a little bit of Flourish for my aquarium. So for my aquariums, I use Flourish, and then when I'm watering and spraying and misting, I throw a little bit of Flourish in there, because it's got some calcium, it's got some iron, it's got some things in it that, you know, my plants can benefit from. So I'm top spraying that with those, hitting the root balls with those. But for the main part, they're getting water and then this fertilizer that's in the soil. So yeah, it's like, it's not an osmocote. It's not osmocote, but it's like an osmocote that comes from a private grower. His friend actually owns a company over in Thailand. His friend sends him over a batch for his orchids, and I buy a batch of the fertilizer from him. He just sells me little batches every now and then, and it works perfect for my garden. Like, I bought one batch maybe 8 months ago, and I still have a ton of it. So, and it lasts for a whole eight months to a year, depending on how much you're watering. Me, I water a lot. My plants are watered a lot. So mine's probably was going to be close to that 8-month part, which is probably into that time now where my very first plants I started with that. I probably need to go throw some fertilizer in them, but we'll cross that bridge in a couple weeks. So once I see some plants kind of being like, I'm getting smaller or something, I'll throw some fertilizer in and boost it back up. But yeah, fertilize year round, like nothing's changed. Like I said, I might just change up my watering a little bit. I'm not having to water some of my big plants as much, and I'm not having to water some of my little plants as much, but I'm still making sure I'm staying on it, because it still gets hot in here. I still have airflow in here, and it's still a tropical jungle in here. So temperatures normally around, on average, my spot on number, honestly, if you really want to know if I had like a spot on number temperature and humidity wise, 74 degrees, 74% humidity. Like during the day, if it's 74% humidity, 70 to 74 degrees, that's where I would love it to be, because I can deal with that. My plants can deal with that. On an extreme level, I'd probably go like 78 degrees, 77 degrees Fahrenheit, and probably like during the day like 70% humidity. So 78, 77, 78 degrees, and then 70% humidity would be like a great one too. But when they're matching 73 degrees, 73%, 74 degrees, 74%, 75 degrees, 73%, once you start hitting above 74%, you'll notice the humidity will rise at a certain point, 74 degrees, humidity is riding with it, like 75 degrees. But once you hit like 76 degrees, the humidity kind of starts to like drop because it's too hot. It's not, it can't hold as much water molecules in the air because it's too hot. So once you start getting around that 80 degrees, 90 degrees, the humidity normally stays around like 70, 80%. It doesn't rise as gradual as it does once it starts hitting a point. It'll still rise with it, but it's not gonna be matching it. Once it hits around like 75, 76, it kind of start being like and tailing off a little bit, and getting away from exact matching. I have noticed that if you mess around with humidity and temperatures a lot, you'll notice. And if you read a lot of humidity and temperature levels around the world, you'll see that if it's like hot outside, like 90 degrees, then your humidity is probably going to be around like 60, 70%. And if it's like 70 degrees, then your humidity can get up to like the 80s and 90%, so it's a little bit easier for that humidity to thrive when it's a little bit not as hot, not as blazing hot. It's going to feel still super humid because if it's 90 degrees and it's 75% humidity, 70% humidity outside, still going to feel like it's fucking humid. The index is probably going to be if it's 90 degrees and 70% humidity, the heat index is probably around 75 or 95, 94, like 90. It's going to feel like 95, 94 because that humidity is going to be kicking, but it's not that much. But if it's like 75, 74 degrees and 90% humidity, you feel that humidity. It's crazy. It's just like, whoa, like it feels humid, but it feels like nice at the same time. It's like, whoa, what's going on? But when it's like the opposite, when it's 90 degrees and 70% humidity, you're like, what's going on? Why is it so humid? But it's just because it's hot and humid. So something to think about. Also with watering too, it's okay to kind of let your plants go a little bit more drier in the winter than you would in the summer. In the summer, they can go 12 hours and drop. Like it'll be fine and with no water, no water, no water, no water, and then like 3 hours later, what the hell happened? But in the winter, like no water, no water, no water, no water, no water, no water, it can just go a little bit longer without no water. So keep that in mind too. Let your plants just go a little bit more on the drier side than you would normally, just a little bit, not too much. Especially if your environment's not changing much. If your environment's not changing much, don't change your watering too much. But just a little bit. Let your plants maybe go. If you were to do them every like 3 days, just go that extra 4 days, like just to give it that extra day. That it's not just holding extra water, and you're not trying to explode water molecules. So try to give it that extra that day and some. That way it can use the proper water up since it's not using as much as it would when it's hot. Another tip, tape your windows. So if you have like really old windows and it's like single pane or something like that, tape your windows. So just take tape and put it around the window sills, and your sliding glass doors, your windows, all that. Just put tape around that to keep air from blowing in. That's a good tip. I used to do that in one of my spots. It wasn't my last spot. It wasn't single pane, but I just had a gap between the sliding glass doors, like a little gap at the top, and like it didn't close. It just didn't close all the way. It was like it's weird. Like it closed all the way, but there was like a gap that it have like a little bit. You could feel cold air blasting through it. When it was cold outside, you would feel that air blasting through. So I would tape that up and stuff. So tape your windows if you can. Just tape your whole window with plastic. So just put a whole giant piece of plastic over it, like a tarp, a clear plastic tarp, not a dark one, non see-through, but get a clear plastic tarp and put it around your windows and tape that, and that'll keep air and cold air from coming in, and also keep your windows from condensating, because sometimes your windows will condensate when it's too hot and humid in your house and it's cold outside. Your windows will condensate, and that condensation drops to the window frame and just start rotting out your window frame. So if you want, you can go and just tape your whole window up. Just tape the entire window up. Tape the window up, or put plastic, like I said, clear plastic over it and tape that up, and you'll never have to worry about the condensation. You never have to worry about cleaning your windows during the summer or the spring when you go to take that off and stuff. You don't have to worry about your windows cleaning that and stuff, because you're good to go. So yeah, go ahead and tape your windows up if you need to. If you're in an older spot, tape the windows up if you need to. I've done it. I've seen people do it. You gotta do what you gotta do, boo boo. And last but not least, a tip I want to give y'all is give your plants some space and some time. Don't repot your plants really. Like, just give your plant some time. If you feel like your plant's wigging out, just give it some time. Don't try to over counter too many things. Sometimes when your plant's kind of going through it and you want to fix it instantly, don't do too many things. So if you think it's the soil, think it's the roots, don't change the soil and damage the roots and then throw some water on it and then fertilize it and then the second and third. No, like, try taking baby steps. So if you see it's the soil, you never need to redo your soil really. Like I always tell people redo their soil too much. Like it's never really the soil. It's how much you're putting water in that soil. Are you putting too much water in that soil? Are you not putting enough? Is the soil not breathing because you got that clear pot in another pot that's not letting it breathe? There's just a ton of factors I always tell people. So don't just try changing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things right at back. Try to do one small thing. So if you think you're not watering enough, maybe add a little water, just a little bit more water next time. If you're watering too much, back off every water just a little bit. If you think you need to fertilize, don't fertilize until you see your plant start doing okay. If you see your plant doing bad, don't fertilize because it'll shoot it down quicker because it's like, yo, I was already doing bad and you added some fertilizer to me and no, that's not what it needs. Sometimes you need some super thrive, like, instead of a fertilizer, just throw a little bit of super thrive in your water to help your plant. If you see your plants on a decline, throw some super thrive so it kind of just plateaus out again. And then once you start kind of seeing it go a little bit, then add some fertilizer, and then that'll help it go back up. But don't add fertilizer until you see it kind of plateau back out. That's a huge thing. A lot of people change their soil, throw fertilizer in it, just at a third, and it's just like that plant's like fried. Like, what did you just do to me? So baby steps when trying to figure out what's going on with your plant. But yeah, so that's plant maintenance. If you guys have any questions, concerns, just go ahead and shoot me a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Until then, keep gardening, and have fun with it. Peace. So we don't went over plant maintenance for the winter. We don't went over watering. We don't went over environmental. We went over airflow. We went over the humidifier. We went over some other tips and tricks and little things that I can give you. There's probably a million things on the internet on how to take care of your plant in the winter. But I just wanted to give you the ZTY2 way to do it. I just want to give you my little tips and tricks that I do to make sure my plants thrive throughout the winter because I know I've gotten this question before. And I just want to go ahead and make this video. I need to stop being lazy and get these videos out. I need to get these videos out for y'all. I need to stop being lazy. Next video is going to be a plant update, a collection update, just because, I did my philodendron last time. And that's because I was like, I can knock out like 40, 45 plants real quick. But doing all 250, that's gonna be a video. So if y'all want to see that video, if you want to see the plant collection video, the entire collection update, 2024 into 2024, please subscribe, like this video, share it, let your friends know. If you guys really want to see it, let me run up some comments. Let me see them comments say plant collection video. I will drop the next plant collection video next week. I will do it. I will shoot it this week and drop it next week if I see you guys just run this up and be like, yo, we want the plant collection. We want to see what all is in there. If y'all are like that, then I'm gonna just give it to y'all because yeah, it is like 200. I think my last count I did was 280 something, 290 something. But I will do that. I will break down each of these little plants in here for you and let you know each little and big plant and let you know the care tip and when I got them and things like that. I'll go into some details on how long I've had them. Some of these plants I've had for 5 years, 6 years. Some of these plants I've had for 5, 6 weeks, less. So yeah. So without further ado, I'm gonna let y'all get to what y'all gotta get to, and I will see you on the next one. So again, always, I love y'all. See y'all in the next one. Peace.